William's fingers trembled as he gripped the edges of the medical pod, his knuckles white against the sterile metal. The alien script scrolling across the translucent screen meant nothing to him, but the tone in Maya's voice told him everything he needed to know. Something had gone terribly wrong. "You are ours now," she said, her crystalline eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made his stomach drop. The words hung in the recycled air of the medical bay like a death sentence. William had been a xenobiologist for 7 years, had cataloged over 300 alien species across 12 systems, but he'd never encountered anything quite like the Sithari. They were beautiful in an otherworldly way, tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like oil on water, shifting through purples and blues depending on their emotional state. Maya stood before him now, her skin flickering with agitated crimson streaks. "What do you mean?" William managed, his voice cracking. "The procedure was supposed to be temporary. You said the neural interface would help me understand your language better, that's all." Maya's head tilted in that peculiar way her species had, almost bird-like. "We believed so too," she said softly. "But you are human, your brain structure. It adapted differently than we anticipated." The other Sithari in the room exchanged glances, their skin patterns pulsing in silent communication. William had learned enough about them over the past 3 months aboard their research vessel to know when they were worried. They were terrified. "Explain it to me," William demanded, forcing steel into his voice despite the fear coiling in his chest. "What happened?" Maya moved closer and William noticed for the first time how her hands shook slightly. "The neural interface creates a bond, a connection between minds. For our species, it is temporary, lasting only hours. But your neural plasticity, your brain's ability to form new pathways." She paused, searching for words. "William, the bond has become permanent. You are connected to our collective consciousness now. Forever." The room spun. William sat down hard on the edge of the medical pod, his mind reeling. "Connected how?" "You can feel us," Maya said. "And we can feel you. Your thoughts, your emotions, they flow into the collective like streams into an ocean, and ours flow into you." As if summoned by her words, William suddenly felt it, a vast presence at the edge of his consciousness, like voices in another room, muffled but undeniably there. Hundreds of them. Thousands. The entire Sithari collective, their thoughts and feelings brushing against his mind like whispers in a crowded hall. Panic surged through him, hot and wild. He tried to stand but stumbled, and Maya caught him with surprising strength. The moment her hands touched his arm, the connection intensified. He gasped as emotions flooded through him, not his own but hers, concern, guilt, and beneath it all something else, curiosity. "Let go," he gasped, and she released him immediately. The connection dimmed but didn't disappear. "This is impossible," William said, backing away until his shoulders hit the wall. "Humans aren't telepathic. We can't." "You aren't telepathic," another Sithari interrupted, stepping forward. This one was older, his skin marked with the silver patterns of age. "But you are adaptable beyond anything we've encountered. Your species' evolutionary trait, your ability to survive in any environment, to adapt to any challenge, it extends to your neurology." William's scientific mind latched onto the explanation even as his emotions churned. It made a horrible kind of sense. Humanity's greatest strength had always been adaptation. They'd survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and the leap to the stars through sheer stubborn refusal to give up. His brain had simply done what human brains did best. It had adapted to survive in an alien environment. "How do I undo it?" he asked. The silence that followed was answer enough. "You can't," Maya said finally. "Removing the interface now would kill you. The pathways in your brain have already restructured themselves around the connection. It's become as essential to your survival as your brainstem." William slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, his head in his hands. Everything he'd known, everything he'd been, was gone. He was no longer just William Chen, human xenobiologist. He was something else now, something hybrid, something unprecedented. "I want to be alone," he whispered. Maya hesitated, her skin flickering through a rainbow of concerned colors. "William, please." They left him there, their footsteps fading down the corridor. But even alone, William wasn't truly alone anymore. He could feel them, distant but present, a symphony of alien consciousness humming at the back of his mind. Hours passed. William didn't move, didn't eat, didn't sleep. He sat in the medical bay wrestling with what he'd become, with the violation of having his mind invaded, with the loss of the privacy he'd taken for granted his entire life. But slowly something changed. As his panic faded and his scientific training reasserted itself, William began to actually pay attention to the connection rather than fighting it. He realized the Sithari weren't reading his thoughts like a book. It was more subtle than that, emotions, impressions, surface-level feelings, and it flowed both ways. He could feel Maya somewhere on the ship, her guilt eating at her like acid. She blamed herself for what had happened to him. The knowledge appeared in his mind not as words but as understanding, as certain as if he'd known it all his life. Without consciously deciding to, William reached out through the connection. He didn't know how to do it, but his adapted brain seemed to understand instinctively. He sent a pulse of reassurance toward Maya, a wordless message. "It's not your fault." The response was immediate. Surprise, followed by a surge of relief so intense it brought tears to William's eyes, and beneath it that curiosity again, stronger now. The Sithari collective was fascinated by him, by what he represented. A human mind in the collective. It had never happened before. The implications rippled through thousands of connected consciousnesses. Over the following days, William began to understand what he'd become. The bond wasn't a prison, it was a bridge. Through the collective, he could access the accumulated knowledge of the entire Sithari species. Mathematical concepts that would have taken him years to learn appeared in his mind fully formed. He could ask a question and receive answers from experts across a dozen star systems simultaneously. But more than that, he began to understand the Sithari themselves in a way no human ever had. He felt their deep reverence for life, their philosophical struggles, their hopes and fears. They weren't so different from humans, he realized. They just experienced existence as a collective rather than as individuals. And they were learning from him too. Human determination, human creativity, human stubbornness. These things flowed into the collective like fresh water into a stagnant pond. The Sithari had never encountered a species quite so aggressively individual, so fiercely independent, and William's presence challenged their fundamental assumptions about consciousness itself. Maya came to see him often. They would sit together in the observation deck, watching the stars wheel by and talk, sometimes with words, sometimes through the bond. She taught him how to control the connection, how to create barriers in his mind for privacy when he needed it, how to navigate the vast sea of collective thought without drowning in it. "You're adapting faster than we expected," she told him one evening, her skin glowing soft violet in the starlight. "Most Sithari take years to learn what you've mastered in weeks." William smiled. "We're good at adapting, it's kind of our thing." "Your species truly is remarkable," Maya said, and through the bond, William felt the genuine awe behind her words. "The Galactic Council has dismissed humanity as primitive, as too young for consideration. But you've done something no other species has ever achieved. You've bridged two forms of consciousness." "I didn't have much choice," William pointed out. "No," Maya agreed, "but how you've responded to it, that is entirely human. You didn't break, you adapted, you thrived." She paused. "The collective has been discussing it. We believe you might be the key to something greater, a way for individualistic species and collective species to truly understand each other." William looked out at the stars, feeling the presence of thousands of Sithari minds backing Maya's words, supporting her belief in him. He thought about humanity, scattered across the galaxy, struggling to find their place among species that had thousands of years head start. Maybe this accident, this forced bond, could be the beginning of something new. Not a tragedy, but an opportunity. "You said I'm yours now," William said quietly. "But you're mine too, aren't you, all of you?" Maya's skin blazed with colors William had learned to recognize as joy. "Yes," she said. "The bond goes both ways, William. You are ours and we are yours. Forever." William reached out and took her hand, feeling the connection sing between them. Through it, he felt the approval of the collective, their hope for what this unprecedented bond might mean for both their species. He was still human, but he was more than that now too, and maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a terrible thing after all.